Hey boys and girls, I am so excited that you're in my reading tier group this year because I have so many fun things planned for us. Last week you had a couple short paragraphs to read, and it really was just to get you familiar with getting into reading tier, completing something small, and seeing how long it would take you to do that. I know some of the short passages that I picked were tricky, but that's okay. I think you did a fantastic job. In my reading tier, we are actually going to move into a full literature study of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's one of my favorite books, and I absolutely love using it for reading tier time. Because you're in the comprehension group, we're going to practice skills with reading a story and then diving deep into some questions about the story. We've been learning about thick and thin questions being questions that are right there in the text. We can put our finger on it, we can highlight it. Things like when we practiced with the stranger, was the stranger able to talk, yes or no? That would be a thin question. We were really able to find those answers right away. Thicker questions would be maybe asking why the stranger all of a sudden left the Bailey farm. Thicker questions are more open-ended. We're not exactly sure what the right answers are and what's correct. So in the comprehension group, we're going to be practicing our questioning skills and also tying in some response, because I think everybody could benefit from practicing writing. Our writing does need to develop more, and I think since you missed almost 3 months of third grade, it would be great to couple a fun story with a little bit of writing. Since we are not going to be able to switch like we normally do, like you did in third grade where you'd get up and we'd switch rooms and you'd have a different tier teacher, reading this book is going to look a little different. I know that we do need to practice reading this aloud, but for the first couple chapters, what we're going to do is we're actually going to listen to the audio version of it. And I think what I'll have us do is listen to maybe a chapter a day. Sometimes it may take a little bit longer than that, but after each chapter, you are going to need to answer one question. So on Tuesday, tomorrow, this is what your slide is going to look like. It tells you what I want you to read. And this one says read chapter 1, starting from 0 up to 8 minutes and 15 seconds. This book right here that I have for you on your slide is actually linked to the video that you're going to listen to. And the cool thing about it is it opens up and you can see the pages, and the person reading turns the pages. You can very clearly see when it's time for chapter 2. And that's around 8 minutes and 15 seconds. So you'll stop at that point in time, and then you will need to look over here at the question chart. To begin, since reading tier is brand new, I'm only having you answer one question. Now that might seem simple, but it is complex because I want you to really practice your writing skills. The directions say choose only one question to answer. You must include part of the question, POQ, and at least 3 to 4 solid sentences. I tried to pick questions that were right there. Some are thicker, and that's okay. I'm giving you a choice. So you do not need to answer all 3 questions. You're going to pick one. I gave you an example of how I want your response to look. It's right up there in the green where it says example. Question, what does Charlie get for his birthday each year? The answer, this is how you're going to need to write your answer, using POQ part of the question. Charlie gets a piece of chocolate for his birthday. I know this because the story says he receives only 1 bar. It also says that he eats it very slowly so he can save as much as he can. He wants it to last very long. Those couple sentences, I use part of the question. I know this because it also says, and a wrap-up sentence. That was 4 sentences, but it is going to take me some time to go back into my book, find the evidence, and develop good, solid sentences. The good news is I'm going to provide you a paper copy of your book in school. After you listen to the chapter and you choose the question that you're going to want to answer, for example, right here, if I'm picking question 1, where did Mr. Bucket work and what was his job? At this point in time, I am going to open up my book so that I can go through the pages and find evidence in the story. For this question, I actually found a lot of good evidence over here on page 5. I'm looking to see where he works, maybe some good details. And it says here that Mr. Bucket was the only person in the family with a job. He worked in a toothpaste factory where he sat all day long at a bench and screwed the little caps onto the tops of the tubes of toothpaste after the tubes had been filled. But a toothpaste cap screwer is never paid very much money, and poor Mr. Bucket, however hard he worked and however fast he screwed on the caps, was never able to make enough to buy 1/2 of the things that so large a family needed. Now, there's definitely more information on that page, but I think if I'm looking back at my other questions, it appears that that information is also good for question number 3. Even if the author didn't tell us, we would know that the Bucket family was poor. List 2 things from the story that prove it. So page 5 is a great page for evidence. But if I'm going to answer question number 1, it's important that I practice using the example that I had where we're looking for part of the question and 3 to 4 solid 4th grade sentences. So let's practice this together. If I were going to answer this question, I would start with stating who, that's Mr. Bucket. I'm not going to start my sentence with he. That's no good. A solid 4th grade student is going to use details. So I'm going to say something like Mr. Bucket worked, and if I look at the evidence in my story, it tells me that he works in a toothpaste factory. So that's going to be my first sentence. Mr. Bucket worked in a toothpaste factory. My next question is where I'm going to give some evidence. I know this because the story told me that he worked all day long on a bench and screwed little caps onto the tops of toothpaste tubes. So there's my first sentence, the who and the where. My second sentence is going to be where I have that evidence. I know this because. I need to give a little bit more. I'm going to kind of think and reflect on what I think as far as his job and maybe give some feeling into this. I might say the story also said, as a cap screwer, E-W-E-R, he never gets paid very much money. And I think that's spelled incorrectly. That's okay. So that's my third sentence. And then I'm going to wrap this up. Maybe I'm going to put a little bit of an opinion on it, how I feel about this. I feel sad for the family because Mr. Bucket works so hard and has to provide for so many people. So I'm giving a little bit of my emotion and what I think. So after I listen to the story, it is important that you take your time to write a meaningful response. That is why I am only having you pick one question. So as stated, and this is what your Wednesday will look like, reading chapter 2, starting at 8:15 up to 16:23 in this link, and choosing one question. Like I said, there's an example here in case you forget what you need for your writing, but I'm going to be checking. So on Tuesday, you'll have chapter 1, answer a question. On Wednesday, you'll have chapter 2 and answer a question. And then on Thursday, when we meet, we are actually going to meet on Zoom. So Thursday, it says, this is your teacher check-in, Zooming with me. Be prepared to discuss your questions for chapter 1 and chapter 2. This is going to prove to me what knowledge you gained from the story and how much you were able to comprehend. When you're ready, you should click on the blue Zoom logo by 1:50 in order to attend this session. That gives you about 5 minutes to get ready for reading tier, pull up your reading tier slides, and clicking on this Zoom link. I'm allotting for 5 minutes because sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to open things, but we are going to start that discussion at 1:50 on Thursday. So you will need your book out and we're going to have a little Zoom discussion. Now we have almost 19 kids in our group, so I'm excited to see how this Zoom goes. It is the first time that I've tried to have so many people on at once, but I think it's going to work out just fine. And of course, on Friday, I do have a slide for you, but we don't have any school. We do have off Friday and we do have off Monday, so I won't see you until October 13th. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask your teacher. But I am so excited to get started with you. today and tomorrow and this whole week. It's a brand new set of reading tier things. I hope you're just as excited as I am. For now, that's all I have for you. Best of luck, and I will see you all on Thursday. Bye.